Heavenly Father, we come before you this morning as we're about to get into a study of your word. I pray that you might give us wisdom and understanding, discernment, and clarity of thought. Thank you, Lord, for a good night's rest, and as we enter into the first lesson of the day, may we receive the communications that you send to us. Be with us, open our understanding, as you have promised, Lord, that when the prayers of the saints ascend with the incense, you pour out your Spirit and open the seventh seal. So we thank you, merciful Savior, for all these things. In Christ's name, Amen. Morning.
Morning.
Today we're looking at a topic called the choosing of Jerusalem. It's on page 24 where it says choosing of Jerusalem. Let me just get my Bible, sorry. Choosing of Jerusalem. How many of us have done a study on the choosing of Jerusalem? One hand. Anyone else who's done choosing of Jerusalem? So only one person understands the topic of the choosing of Jerusalem. So I guess it's worth studying. So if we go to page 24 of our notes, we're going to, before we get into that, I want to do Ezekiel 10 a little bit. Ezekiel chapter 10. It's powerful. I can't not do it. Okay. What do we understand about the vision of Ezekiel 8, 9, 10, 11? It's one vision, right? You can see it just because there are no chapter breaks. The translators put that in. So you studied them upon the principle of what? Repeat and enlarge. Repeat and enlarge, right? So what's being identified in Ezekiel chapter 8? 4 abominations, right? And they're listed. But when you get to Ezekiel chapter 9, what's being illustrated in Ezekiel chapter 9?
Judgment of the living.
The judgment of the living, right? The sealing. Because the angel is going through the midst of Jerusalem. But are the people in Jerusalem dead? They're alive and they're being sealed, right? So you see the sealing and the judgment of the living illustrated there. So for those who might not be familiar with Ezekiel 8, when you go through Ezekiel chapter 8, you're going to see a list of escalating abominations, right? 4 abominations. There's a progressive fall of Jerusalem. It begins with the image of jealousy. It goes to the secret chambers, it goes to the weeping for Tammuz, and then it goes to the bowing to the sun, right? So contextually, you see abominations that are brought to view in Ezekiel chapter 8. So when you go to Ezekiel chapter 9, we're told that the man with the rider's inkhorn puts a mark upon those who do what? Sigh and cry for the abominations that are done where? In Jerusalem. Contextually, what are the abominations that they're sighing and crying over?
8, from chapter 8.
From chapter 8, because it's the same vision, right? The abominations that are done in chapter 8, there's a group of people who recognize them. And through a recognition of those abominations, those people sigh and cry and they receive the seal of God. So Ezekiel 8 and 9, they are one vision. And they identify 2 classes of worshippers. One that are progressively being sealed, one being progressively falling. You see 2 classes of worshippers, right? In the same period of time. So when you come to Ezekiel chapter 10, it's going to be a repeat and enlarge of Ezekiel 8 and 9. But Ezekiel chapter 10 is the same principle in Revelation. It's not an accident. Revelation chapter 7 identifies the sealing, right? But what does Revelation chapter 8 identify? The seventh seal. The purification of the church. Because you see the calls from the altar, right? And Sister White says that the sealing shown in Ezekiel in Ezekiel 9 is the same sealing shown to John in Revelation 7, right? So it's not I don't think it's an accident that Ezekiel chapter 9 identifies the sealing, and Ezekiel chapter 10 identifies the purification. Just like our Revelation 7 shows the sealing, and Revelation 8, the following chapter, shows the purification. You follow? It's not an accident. Okay. Ezekiel chapter 9 identifies what? The sealing of God's people, right? But Ezekiel chapter 10, which we're going to go into, identifies the purification of the church. We're going to see some symbols there that show you that it's the purification of the church. So Ezekiel chapter 10 comes immediately after Ezekiel chapter 9. We follow? Right. And when you go to, when you go to Sister White's quotation, she says the sealing shown to John in Revelation 7 is the same sealing shown to Ezekiel in Ezekiel chapter 9. And it's not an accident that the chapter that follows the sealing in Revelation 7 is the chapter that identifies the purification of the church. Just like how the chapter that follows Ezekiel 9 is the chapter that identifies the purification of the church. Get my point?
Yeah.
Okay, let's put, okay, please.
Maybe just to say it simply.
Yes, it's okay.
After the sealing, you see a purification.
Yes.
And this is what happens in Ezekiel chapter 8, chapter 9. After the sealing in chapter 9, you see a purification in chapter 10.
Yes.
And the same thing happens in Revelation. After a sealing in chapter 7, you see a purification in chapter 8.
Yes.
So a sealing and a purification.
Sealing, purification in Ezekiel. Sealing, purification in Revelation. You follow? So, do you follow that? We haven't identified the characteristics, but I'm making the argument that when we're going to Ezekiel 10, it's going to be identifying the purification of the church. But that chapter comes before the chapter that identifies the sealing. Just like our Revelation 8 identifies the purification, and it's the chapter that comes after the sealing. So let me do this. Revelation chapter 7 identifies what? Sealing. So I have here seal. What does Revelation 8 identify? The purification, because those coals are thrown right from off the altar. And what do those coals symbolize? Yeah, Sister White says the coals are a symbol of purification, right? So Revelation chapter 8 is the purification of the church, isn't it? Which comes after the sealing, right? So this is purification. We apply the same principle to Ezekiel chapter 9. What's identified in Ezekiel chapter 9? The sealing, right? And the chapter that follows Ezekiel 9 is Ezekiel chapter 10, which identifies the purification. That's what we want to show. But it identifies the purification. So this is what? Ezekiel 10. So it's not an accident. We see it. Do you see why I'm saying it's not an accident? One follows after the other in both books. So what's open in Revelation 8? The seventh seal. Therefore, what's open in Ezekiel 10? The seventh seal. Ezekiel 10 is identifying the opening of the seventh seal. Do you follow? Just from the structure. The structure that they follow the identical sequence. Before we go into it and look at the symbols. Ezekiel chapter 10 is the opening of the seventh seal. Right? And it's going to connect directly with 9/11. Not that it hasn't been direct, but it's always been direct. But it's going to give us further evidence. Let's go to Ezekiel 10. So I'll read this one, then when we get into choosing Jerusalem, we'll go around. Because I just want to briefly do this. Ezekiel chapter 10. In Ezekiel chapter 9, you see the man with the rider's inkwell. Right? Do you not? Sister White says in Testimonies to Ministers, she says that the angel that ascends from the east, having the seal of God, is the highest angel. Who's the highest angel? Christ is the highest angel, Michael, right? But the angel of Revelation 18 that comes down, who is it? It's Christ, right? So Christ is both the one who does the purification and the sealing. You follow? You follow? Yes.
Can you say that again?
The angel in Revelation 7, Sister White says is the highest angel, which is Christ. Right? We follow? But the angel of Revelation 18 that descends, the mighty angel, lightens the earth with his glory. Do angels have glory? Do they have their personal glory?
No.
No, but he, with his glory, because it's a glory that he possesses, is Christ. But you can show that that angel comes down, and that's in fulfillment of Acts 3:19 when it says, when he shall send Jesus. So that angel is Christ. Get my point? So when you go to Ezekiel chapter...
I just wanted to see the reference.
Okay.
TM 4, paragraph 3.
Testimonies 444, paragraph 3 for reference. Testimonies to ministers, page 444. Right. In Ezekiel chapter 9, we see a man clothed in linen. Right? Who's this man? It's Christ. Right? It's the sealing angel. Right? Christ accomplishes it. And then when he finishes that work, he says it's done. It's finished. Right? You can connect with many things, but that angel is Christ, the man clothed in linen. When you run that phrase, the man in linen, it's the same man that approaches Daniel in chapter 10. Right? So when we go, let's go to Ezekiel chapter 10. In Ezekiel 9 is sealing. In Ezekiel 10 it says, Then I looked, and behold, in the firmament that was above the head of the cherubims, there appeared over them as it were a sapphire stone, as the appearance of the likeness of a throne. What's happening for Ezekiel? Yes, the temple is open. Because you're seeing heavenly activity, right? So the temple is open. Do we see that? For you to see things that are happening in heaven, what has to be opened? The temple. Without the temple being opened, you can't see it. And then it says, and he spake unto the man clothed in linen. This man clothed in linen in Ezekiel chapter 9 is the sealing angel. Right? So it's the same angel in Ezekiel 9. Just like how the angel of Revelation 18 is the same angel of Revelation 9, Revelation 7. It's the angel that's standing in Revelation chapter 8, interceding. Who's that who intercedes for us? Christ is the angel that casts down the coals, right? So the angel of Revelation 7 who seals is the angel of Revelation 8 who does the work of interceding. You follow? Because Christ is our priest, right? Mediator. So it says, and he spake unto the man clothed in linen, and said, Go in between the wheels, even under the cherub, and fill thine hand with coals of fire from between the cherubims, and scatter them over the city. Which city is this?
It's Jerusalem.
Jerusalem. This is the same vision of Ezekiel 8. The city is Jerusalem. And he went in my sight. Now the cherubim stood on the right side of the house. When the man went in, the cloud filled the inner court. What is it a symbol of when a cloud fills the temple? What does it represent? Pardon? Yes, it's God's presence. That's true at a most basic level. But prophetically, my brother, change of dispensation, right? Yeah, a close of probation. Close of probation. Let's go to Revelation 15. Revelation 15. Cloud and smoke are interchangeable symbols. We follow. Cloud and smoke are interchangeable symbols in the Bible. So Revelation 15, verse 5. I'll start in verse 5. Look at this terminology. And after that I looked, and behold, the temple of the tabernacle of the testimony in heaven was opened. So what's happening there? The temple is opened. Change of dispensation. And then it says in verse 6, and the 7 angels came out of the temple having 7 plagues, clothed in pure and white linen, and having their breasts girded with golden girdles. Let's go to verse 8. And the temple was filled with smoke from the glory of God, and from his power, and no man was able to enter into the temple till the 7 plagues of the 7 angels were fulfilled. So when you see the cloud, the smoke and cloud are interchangeable. Take down Isaiah chapter 4 for reference. The Lord is going to use cloud and smoke in the same breath because they're interchangeable. So when the cloud fills the temple, it's the same as when the smoke fills the temple. Isaiah chapter 4, just the whole chapter, right? So here the cloud fills the temple, the smoke, and here it's identifying the close of human probation because the 7 last plagues are now pouring, right? So it becomes a symbol of a change of dispensation or a shut door. So what the Bible is identifying is that when you go to Ezekiel chapter 10, sorry, let's go back to chapter 10. It says in verse 3, "Now the cherubim stood on the right side of the house when the man went in, and the cloud filled the inner court." Verse 4, "Then the glory of the Lord went up from the cherub and stood over the threshold of the house, and the house was filled with the cloud, and the court was full of the brightness of the Lord's glory." So whatever is going to happen here shows you that when the purification of God's church takes place, simultaneously there's a shut door. Do you follow?
What was the reference? Isaiah 4, Isaiah?
Just read the whole chapter, Isaiah chapter 4. Do you follow the logic? This is taking longer than I intended, but I guess it's worthwhile. But do you follow the logic?
Yeah.
The cloud fills the temple, which is the glory of the Lord. So from Revelation 15, when that happens, it's identifying a shut door. You follow? So when this purification of God's church starts, when the seventh seal is opened, you have to see some form of a shut door. You follow?
Yeah.
Yes. There's many ways you can show it. When Solomon dedicates the temple, how many priests were there blowing trumpets?
In Solomon.
Yeah.
Aren't we?
There were 120 priests. Is the number 120 connected with the shut door? Yes, Noah preached for 120 years, then the door was shut. But when Solomon opens the temple, what happens? The cloud comes and the glory of the Lord settles. So you have two witnesses that marks a shut door. That's my point. Right? So, this is what's being identified. When the purification of God's church starts at 9/11. You have to see some form of a shut door at 9/11.
Okay.
You follow? Yes. And then it says, "The house was filled with the cloud, and the court was full of the brightness of the Lord's glory." What's the court?
The court.
Yes. Courtyard, but
The court.
yes. Where's the holy place? Okay, where was Christ slain?
And out the court.
At the court, which was where geographically?
Outside the city.
Outside the, inside
At
the
a very basic level.
That's why does the court typify?
Okay, what does the court typify?
cross. The
The earth. The earth, right? The courtyard is the earth. The holy place is in heaven, in the most holy place. So it says here, "The court was full of the brightness of the Lord's glory." So replace that word court with earth. How would it read? So the earth was lightened with the glory of God. Revelation 18. When the church is being purified. Is that an accident? You follow? It's there. It's airtight. And then it says this. "And the sound of the cherubim's wings was heard even to the outer court, as the voice of the Almighty God when He speaketh." I don't have the quotation right now. But okay, as Bible students, what's usually associated with the speaking of the Lord?
thunderings and lightnings.
Thunderings and lightnings in an earthquake. Right? When He spoke at Sinai, what happened? According to Hebrews.
Shaking.
Shaking. Right?
Lightnings.
Voices, thunderings, lightnings in an earthquake. That's the same thing that you see when the seventh seal is opened. When the Lord speaks, there's thunderings, lightnings, and earthquake. But you also see cherubims, and cherubims are angels. And Sister White says angels move at what speed? Lightning speed. So you see thunderings and lightnings. This is the opening of the seventh seal. And then it says in verse 6, "And it came to pass that when He had commanded the man clothed with linen, saying, Take fire from between the wheels, from between the cherubims, then He went in and stood beside the wheels." Now, Sister White defines these wheels. We're not going to open the passage because I'm just browsing through. But I'll give you the reference. PK 536, paragraph 1. Sister White will define the wheels as the complicated play of human events, which are under the guidance of angels. But then she says that these events represent strife and tumult. We follow? What is often associated symbolically with strife is the the four winds. So what are the wheels? if the wheels are under the control of the angels in Ezekiel 10, and the wheels are a symbol of strife and tumult, complicated play of human events, therefore what are the wheels? They are the what? They are the four winds that are held by angels. You see? Huh? They are the four winds that are held by... People don't seem to get it. Okay. Sister White defines the wheels of Ezekiel as the complicated play of human events. And then she says they represent the tumult and strife. But in another breath, she says tumult and strife are symbolized by four winds. Therefore, if wheels equal tumult and strife, and four winds equal tumult and strife, therefore what are the wheels? Four winds. Hmm? Yes, they are the four winds. A different symbol for the four winds. Now, let's read. And then it says in verse 6, I'm reading it again. And it came to pass that when he had commanded the man clothed in linen, saying, take fire from between the wheels, from between the cherubims, then he went in and stood beside the wheels. So the man clothed in linen has to go and take fire when the four winds are held. Is that wrong? Huh? It's correct. Because the angels are holding the wheels for the man to take the fire and cast it into the earth. Right? And then it says, and one cherub stretched forth his hand from between the cherubims unto the fire that was between the cherubims, and took thereof, and put it into the hand of him that was clothed in linen, the sealing angel, who took it and went out. And there appeared in the cherubims the form of a man's hand under their wings. And when I looked, behold, four wheels. How many wheels are there? So it's how many winds? Four winds. Four winds, right? One wheel by one cherub. So how many cherubims are there? Four. So these are four angels holding the four winds to begin the purification of God's church. So the seventh seal is open when the four winds are held. You follow? Do you follow, people? Yeah, I don't understand. Huh? Huh? We're following. What's confusing? Why are other people confused? Because this is basically what Obey has been saying. What I've been saying. What everyone. So I don't know. Are we confused because it's a new chapter? Because there's nothing new.
Just a new approach.
New approach to the same thing, right? Maybe we'll discuss some of it later for those who are not understanding. It's not a criticism if we're not understanding. But I just want us to not make ourselves feel threatened by a biblical passage, right? Approach it with simplicity. And then it says, so I'll end therefore. And then I'll just summarize this one, then go into our study. Do we see this? The man has to take the coals, and the coals symbolize purification. And Sister White connects purification with the investigative judgment in the great controversy, right? She says, while the investigative judgment is going forward in heaven, believers on earth have got a special work of purification to be doing. So the purification symbolized by the coals is the investigative judgment, but it's accomplished by the man clothed in linen. And in Ezekiel 9, that man is the sealing angel. Therefore, the sealing and the purification are the same work. We follow?
Yes. It's the same way.
That's what we've been saying since day one. Isn't we took an expression from day one, and we took the word closing work, didn't we? Remember? We took an expression called closing work, and what did we say Sister White defines the closing work as? The blotting out of sins. But she uses the same expression closing work to define what else? The sealing. So the sealing is the closing work. So the closing work is the sealing and the judgment of the living. Because they happen at the same time, they are both the closing work. Therefore, it's not a taboo to see the man clothed in linen who accomplishes the sealing in Ezekiel 9 to be the same man who accomplishes the purification in Ezekiel 10. Because the purification and the sealing are the same work. You follow? Okay. So I'll move on. We will discuss. Let's go to our notes. Choosing of Jerusalem. Brother Kolisi, please read the first quotation. Page 24. Actually go to page 25 and begin where it says God gave the Sabbath.
Review and Herald, October 28, 1902. God gave the Sabbath to his people to be a continual sign of his love and mercy and of their obedience. As he rested on this day and was refreshed, so he desired his people to rest and be refreshed. It was to be a constant reminder to them that they were included in his covenant of grace. Throughout your generations, he said, the Sabbath is to be my sign, my pledge to you that I am the Lord that doth sanctify you, that I have chosen you and set you apart as my peculiar people. And as you keep the Sabbath holy, you will bear testimony to the nations of the earth that you are my chosen people.
Okay. So, for you to be part of God's chosen, what's the sign that the Lord has chosen you? The Sabbath. And what does the Lord use the Sabbath to do? Yes, the Sabbath is the rest and refreshing, but He uses it to seal. You follow? So for you to be God's chosen, you need to be what? Sealed. So the choosing of Jerusalem, we're going to show that is identifying the sealing of God's people. It's very basic, right? Just one quotation is basic enough. We follow? So when we're going to look at the choosing of Jerusalem, we're identifying the sealing of God's people. So if you're chosen, you have the seal. Next quotation, Brother Karao. 5T50, paragraph 2.
Okay. Many are called, but few are chosen. Many hear the invitation of mercy, are tested and proved, but few are sealed with the seal of the living God.
Okay, this is a nice passage. Many are called, but few are chosen. This is going to connect us with the parable of the wedding garment, because this is when this proclamation was made, right? That man without a wedding garment is not someone who's chosen. And you're going to see some prophetic characteristics there. But here we're being told that the choosing of God's people is the sealing. Second witness. We see that. Next quotation. Christ triumphant. Page 102, paragraph 6.
The sealing is a pledge from God of perfect security to his chosen ones. Sealing indicates you are God's chosen.
So sealing indicates that you are what?
God's chosen.
Chosen. So the choosing of Jerusalem is identifying the sealing of God's people. We're going to go to passages that identify that. Matthew 22, paragraph 12, Brother Obi. Verse 12, not paragraph. Yeah, verse 12. Just read the whole quotation, the whole verse.
Verse 12. Verse 12, Matthew 22. And he said unto him, Friend, how comest thou in hither, not having a wedding garment? And he was speechless. Then said the king to the servants, Bind him hand and foot, and take him away, and cast him into outer darkness. They shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are called, but few are chosen.
So, from this parable, what's being identified as the choosing? Many are called. Was this man called?
Yeah.
Yes.
Judgment.
It's the judgment. Which phase of the judgment?
Investigation.
Yes, investigation. But where does it climax?
Where does it claim?
At the separation, right? Remember when he's bound hand and foot, right? Because he already doesn't have a wedding garment at the beginning, right? He's called, but he doesn't have a wedding garment at the beginning, so he's not chosen, right?
Repeat that again.
Okay, he's called, right? Isn't he one of the guests? When are the guests called? The good and bad. They're called for the what?
The wedding.
For the wedding, right? Yes. And when they're called there, it's the investigative judgment that's taking place. When he then goes into the king, that's the executive judgment, right? So when you're looking at it from how Brother Mubadi has been laying it on the board, I'm not looking at it from the perspective of how Ellen White applies it in great controversy to the opening of the judgment. But I'm saying, when this man is called, this is Revelation 18. Two distinct calls are made to the churches. The first call is Revelation 18, which is 9/11. So he's one of those who are called at 9/11. Many are called. But when he's called, does he have a wedding garment? He already doesn't have. Meaning he's not chosen. So in the history of the call is where you have the good and bad. Those that are chosen and those that are not. But there's going to be a distinction or a separation at the end when the king tells them to bind him. Right? So when he's bound, it's now made manifest that he's not chosen. You get my point? that he doesn't have the seal. The seal there is the wedding garment, and the character of Christ. Let's read the next quotation.
Let none follow the example of the foolish virgins and think that it will be safe to wait until the crisis comes before gaining a preparation of courage to stand in that time late. It will be too... Okay.
My notes are jumbled up. Sorry, let me read these ones myself.
Right.
Yeah. It will be too late to seek for the righteousness of Christ when the guests are called in and examined. So we are being told that let none follow the example of the what virgins? The foolish virgins. And then she immediately jumps to Matthew 22. She says that to foolish virgins who think that it would be safe to wait until the crisis comes before gaining a preparation, before gaining a preparation of character to stand in that time. It will be too late to seek for the righteousness of Christ when the guests are called in. So she's basically telling us that man in Matthew 22 is a foolish virgin. You follow? We see that, right? He's a foolish virgin who's wanting to gain a preparation of character when there's no more time for preparation. As Adventists, when does preparation day end? At the day of the Lord, right? And the day of the Lord is what? The Sabbath, right? The Sabbath. The sealing is a progressive work, right? Let me just put like these lines on the board. Okay. We have the sealing. You have what you call the sealing, and then there's a point when you have a place where you are sealed, right? This is the history where you ought to be settling into the truth intellectually and spiritually. You are being sealed. It's progressive work. But you're going to get to a point where you are sealed. Capstone. Final conclusion, right? When you get to the point where you're sealed, you're not settling into the truth intellectually and spiritually. You're now receiving the seal of God because you have settled in the sealing time. You follow? The sealing is a progressive work where you're settling in to the truth. But Sister White says that the seal of God will not be placed upon the forehead of an impure man or woman. The forehead is intellectual, right? So the seal of God cannot be finally stamped if you haven't settled before. You get my point? So you need to have settled intellectually and spiritually, which it defines as the sealing before you are sealed. Right? Then you have what you call the binding before you are bound. You follow? Sister White says that, I don't know the quote right now, but she says, she identifies how preparation day is the binding time. There's a quote like that. Preparation day comes before the day of the Lord. And when are God's people sealed? At a basic level. When are Adventists sealed? At the Sunday law, when the decree goes forth, the stamp is impressed. But that expression, decree goes forth, is taken from Zephaniah chapter 2. And in Zephaniah chapter 2, it says the day of the Lord is when the decree goes forth. And the day of the Lord is the Sabbath, right? And the Lord uses the Sabbath to seal us. So when you get to the Sunday law, it's the day of the Lord. And the stamp is impressed. Their characters remain spotless and pure forever. They are sealed. But in the preparation day, because Sabbath, when you get to the Sabbath, are you not manifesting the character that you have been developing through the working days? Right? If you get to the Sabbath and you break the Sabbath, it shows that you have not been preparing for the Sabbath. You have not been having a character which shows that you are being sealed. You haven't been sealing yourself, so that when you get to the Sabbath, you are just finally manifesting it. Get my point? So in this history, you are in the binding, but when you get to the capstone of it at the Sunday law is the perfect fulfillment of the third angel's message, right? And what's the work of the third angel? To seal and to bind. So at the Sunday law, the third angel is perfectly fulfilled, and we're sealed. Therefore, at the same time, we have to be bound.
What's the difference, sealing and binding?
Well, it's basically the same thing. Yeah, bind up the law upon my disciples, seal up the testimony. They're used together. Often they're the same. They might be identifying maybe other aspects of the work, but they're the same thing. Right? So this is the binding. We're in the binding time period. But when you get to the Sunday law, we are bound. You follow? Binding, bound. So the choosing of Jerusalem is progressive. The choosing of Jerusalem begins in the investigative judgment when the sealing takes place. But it reaches its capstone when there's a work of separation at the Sunday law. You follow? So I'm going to read the quotation further on. She says, now is the time. This quotation is just jumbled up. We're on page 26. Okay, I'm going to read where it says, okay, now is the time, now, I'm going to read from where it says this is symbolic. On page 26, this is symbolic. It's somewhere in between, so maybe people will just have to listen to this one, because there's some confusion in this quote. It says,
I can read it from the right.
you traced it right now?
Yeah.
Oh, please read.
Beginning from
Let none.
now.
Yes, let now.
Now is the time
Okay.
to put on the righteousness of Christ, the wedding garment, that will fit you to enter into the marriage supper of the Lamb. In the parable, the foolish virgins are represented as begging for oil and failing to receive it at their request. This is symbolic of those who have not prepared themselves by developing a character to stand in a time of crisis. It is as if they should go to their neighbors and say, "Give me your character or I shall be lost." Those that were wise could not impart their oil to the flickering lamps of the foolish virgins. Character is not transferable. It is not to be bought or sold. It is to be acquired. The Lord has given to every individual an opportunity to obtain a righteous character through the hours of probation. But He has not provided a way by which one human agent may impart to another the character which he has developed by going through hard experiences, by learning lessons from the great teacher, so that he can manifest patience under trial, and exercise faith so that he can remove mountains of impossibility. It is impossible to impart the fragrance of love, to give to another gentleness, tact, and perseverance. It is impossible for one human heart to pour into another the love of God and humanity. Youth Instructor, January 16, 1896, paragraph 2. Youth Instructor, January 16, 1896, paragraph 2.
Okay, let me read on. But the day is coming and is close upon us when every phase of character will be revealed by special temptation. Those who remain true to principle, who exercise faith to the end, who have proved true under test and trial, will be those during the previous hours of probation have formed characters after the likeness of Christ. Now, do you see what Sister White is telling us? She says the wedding garment is the righteousness of Christ, right? And she says, when are we supposed to obtain the wedding garment? During the
hours of probation.
During the previous hours of our probation, which is during the preparation time, right? So when that man goes into the king, was he given an opportunity in the parable to obtain, the wedding garment? When he goes in before the king, was he given an opportunity to obtain a wedding garment?
When
When he goes into the king, no, you are supposed to obtain it when the guests were called. Before that, right? In that history. So when he gets to the king, is his probation still open? It's not open, right? So when we're reading these parables, we need to consider context. Because at one level, Sister White will say, in Great Controversy, when she's applying it to the investigative judgment, which began on October 22, that when the guests are called, it's the investigative judgment. Then probation closes. It's a different line. But in this quotation, she's actually telling us that when he goes into the king, though in another quotation she tells us that it's representing the investigative judgment, but in this quotation it's the close of probation. Do you follow? So we need to consider context. So when he goes in before the king, that's his close of probation, right? The king then, when he's looking at the guests there, he's not looking in an investigative manner that we typically use. It's like Daniel and them going before Nebuchadnezzar. Did Nebuchadnezzar investigate them? But was their probation still open? No. Could they go back and say, we're going to eat vegetables again? Those 3 years that you've given us, let's try again. No. Nebuchadnezzar wanted to see whether they were fit. Right? Have you been eating vegetables? But he investigates them. But it's not the investigative judgment that we typically apply it to. Right? It's like a rigid use of terms. Like I see where it says investigation in the Bible. And I apply it myopically across the board, yes.
In fact, Nebuchadnezzar in that story, I believe, is representing the kings of the earth,
Yeah.
not the king of heaven. Because once Christ and the Father have done a work of investigation and have prepared their people, he says in Matthew 10 and other places that he shall stand before kings and rulers to give a testimony against them, against the Gentiles. So that end of the 3 years standing before Nebuchadnezzar is not illustrating an investigative judgment. It's illustrating the experience that the righteous go through when they now have to manifest their character to the world.
Yeah. Yeah, which is true. And for the priests, we stand before kings at midnight, right? And at that point, you can't start eating vegetables, right? Nebuchadnezzar, as my brother is saying, is not representing God. But the principle is that when you get to that stage, you can't be eating vegetables anymore, right? Your probation is closed. So it's the same principle, like a rigid use of terms. You see investigation or whatever in the Bible, and you just blind yourself to every other application of that word, right? So Sister White is telling us here that this man, and in the Bible then says many are called but few are chosen, right? So when you get to the separation of the good and the bad in the wedding, it's identifying the separation of the wise and the foolish. At this point, Jerusalem is chosen. But I'm saying the choosing of Jerusalem is progressive. At that point, God's people are sealed, but the sealing had begun prior to that. Get my point? So at that point, when there's a separation, that's where you can mark the capstone of the choosing of Jerusalem. The sealing of God's people. Because many are called, but few are chosen. It's made manifest when he goes before the king that is not chosen. So there's a separation. So the choosing of God's people progressively begins in the investigative judgment up until the end of the investigative judgment. We follow? And the end of the investigative judgment is the close of probation, when two classes of worshippers are separated, the wise and the foolish. We follow? Right? Based on it's progressive. You are sealing, sealed. Binding, bound. That's all the choosing of Jerusalem. Right? It's a progressive work. Choosing of Jerusalem is progressive. Do you see what I'm emphasizing? Right? So, in the parable, when are the wise and the foolish separated? At what time? At the midnight cry. Let's use midnight cry for now. Right? At the midnight cry. So at the midnight cry is the capstone of the choosing of Jerusalem. Because this way you have the separation of the wise and the foolish. Right? Because early writings 1:18 says, I then said my accompanying angel about the third angel, fearful is his work, awful is his mission. His work is to separate the wheat from the tares, right? To seal and to bind. So the third angel comes to seal and bind. But the sealing and the binding takes place when the wheat and the tares are separated, right? Which is synonymous with the wise and the foolish. And the wise and the foolish are separated at the midnight cry. Therefore, that's why you have the perfect fulfillment of the sealing. From this context, Jerusalem is chosen. We follow? Yes. It's chosen, but it's progressive. It begins before. Right? The choosing of Jerusalem is the virgins have to have oil before that history. They're being chosen. But it's capstone when they are separated. Right? Let's go to the notes. Isaiah 52. Tino.
Isaiah 52 verse 1. Awake, awake, put on thy strength, O Zion. Put on thy beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city. For henceforth they shall no more come into thee, the uncircumcised and the unclean.
Okay, you see an awakening. Where do we see an awakening in the Bible? Typically.
Midnight cry.
Midnight cry, the virgins awake, right? And it says, put on thy garments. I don't think this passage is saying that at this point is when they put on garments. But it's identifying how they now manifesting that they have put on garments. Right? We need to bring other lines to see those points. But when you mark at the midnight cry, it's where you mark the awakening. And there's a doubling there, right? And it's the history of the second angel's message where you see the doubling. Because the midnight cry is the empowerment of the second angel's message. So at this point you see an awakening. But you now see Jerusalem becoming the holy city. Do you follow? Jerusalem is now the holy city. So when you get to the midnight cry in our time, Jerusalem is chosen. The holy city. The wise and the foolish are separated. We follow? Right? I'm emphasizing Jerusalem in the midnight cry for a particular point. Right? So this is MC. Jerusalem is chosen at the midnight cry. Wise and the foolish are separated. They had been together during the tarrying time, right? During the investigative judgment, when the Lord was progressively choosing, because he already could see the two classes of worshippers. They were being chosen progressively. But it culminates here, the midnight cry, when Jerusalem is chosen. So I'm saying Jerusalem becomes a symbol of the midnight cry. You follow? Jerusalem is the holy city, the pure church. They are the holy city, right? They are awake here. So this is Jerusalem. Those with the seal of God. Now, Sister White likens the triumphal entry of Christ into Jerusalem with the midnight cry. We know that, right? Yeah, she has a quotation. Maybe someone can look it up and share, because I can see some other people are expressing unfamiliarity, which is good for them to get it. Right? I didn't want to go to Ezra 7 because of the calendar issues, you know. So I just wanted to keep it at the midnight cry level. But Ezra 7 is a good one. But Sister White says that Christ's triumphal entry into where? Jerusalem typified the midnight cry in Millerite history, right? So the midnight cry is the triumphal entry into Jerusalem. So Jerusalem becomes a symbol of the midnight cry. We follow? So at the midnight cry, Jerusalem is chosen when the wise and the foolish are separated. But the work of choosing Jerusalem begins during the investigative judgment. And it culminates at the midnight cry when the wise and the foolish are separated. It's progressive. Next quotation, Isaiah 62. Brother Mubana, are you there? Okay. Adios.
Isaiah 62. For Zion's sake will I not hold my peace. For Jerusalem's sake I will not rest until the righteousness thereof go forth as brightness, and the salvation thereof as a lamp of the morning. And the Gentiles shall see thy righteousness, and all the kings thy glory. And thou shalt be called by a new name, which the mouth of the Lord shall name. Thou shalt also be a crown of glory in the hand of the Lord, and a royal diadem in the hand of thy God. Should I continue?
Is it over?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, do we see this? It says what? For Zion's sake will I not hold my peace. For Jerusalem's sake. You see Jerusalem again. I will not rest until the brightness thereof until the righteousness thereof go forth as the brightness, and the salvation thereof as a lamp that burneth. So Jerusalem is being connected with a lamp burning. Right? Do you see the connection? Where do you see the lamp burning? Midnight cry, the virgins have got a lamp that's burning. So Jerusalem is associated with those that have oil in their vessels, the wise virgins. And the wise virgins are made manifest at the midnight cry. So this is where Jerusalem is chosen. You follow? Yes. And then it says, thou shalt be called by a new name, which is covenant. We're going to get into another study for that. But then it says, you shall be a crown of glory in the hand of the Lord, a royal diadem. So Jerusalem at this point becomes a crown. A royal diadem in the hand of God, and the Lord is going to lift up that crown for the Gentiles to see. Because you can show from other passages that, according to passages like, I think maybe Zechariah 8 is there. Zechariah 8 says that in those days many shall take hold of a skirt of him that is a Jew, saying, we shall go forth and seek the Lord of hosts in Jerusalem. Gentiles. So let's follow this one. We have a symbol now, crown, Jerusalem chosen, right? Crown. And then it says, 1 Peter 2 verse 5, Eve. Just read that whole thing.
1 Peter 2:5. He also as lively stones are built up a spiritual house and a holy priesthood to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God by Jesus Christ. 2:9. But you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, and holy nation, a peculiar people, that you should show forth the praises of him who hath called you out of darkness into his marvelous light.
So we see that Peter is telling us of a what generation? A chosen generation. But they are built up a spiritual household, so they are a temple. Do you see that? So the choosing of Jerusalem is the building of the temple. But the temple is God's people, according to Peter. You see that? Jerusalem is the temple. It's God's people. And then we're told that they are what? Precious stones. Isn't that what it says, right? Yes, they are stones. Lively stones. So we are just building on these symbols. Crown and stones. Crown we got from Isaiah 62. Jerusalem is a crown. But Peter tells us that Jerusalem, the chosen ones, are stones. Right? Let's go to the next quotation. The next thing. Are you there, Brother Masi? Okay. Are you there? Zechariah 9:16.
9:16. And the Lord their God shall save them in that day, as the flock of his people. For they shall be as the stones of a crown, lifted up as an ensign upon his land. Should I read on?
No, that's okay. So do you see this? They shall be the stones of a crown. Crown and stones. But these stones in the crown are lifted up as what? An ensign. So Jerusalem is the ensign that's going to be lifted up by the Lord, the flock of his people. So this is the ensign. But we want to read the purpose why the ensign is lifted up. Why does the Lord need to have an ensign? Why does Jerusalem need to be chosen? Isaiah 62 tells us that so that the Gentiles can see thy glory. Right? But the next one says, Uncle Tao, Isaiah 10.
Isaiah 10:1. Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that commit grievousness which they have prescribed. 10:17. And the light of Israel shall be for a fire, and his holy one for a flame, and it shall burn and devour his thorns and his briars in one day.
Okay, it's okay, please pause right there. Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees. This is the Sunday law, right? But you can show that the first Sunday law is at the midnight cry. Right? You can show that. It's at the midnight cry. But what's being identified in the scripture, it then says, in the day of the unrighteous decrees. It says decrees in the plural because you can show that the Sunday laws are progressive. But then it says, and the light of Israel shall be for fire. Do you see a light at the midnight cry? Yes, a lamp that burneth. Right? So you see a lamp that burneth. Which is the light. Because Jerusalem is chosen. And it says it shall be for fire. And then it says, in that day, when the lamp that burneth is set up, the Lord shall devour the briars and thorns in one day. What are briars and thorns a symbol of? They are the tares, because the briars and thorns are burnt up, right? And when you go to the parable of Matthew 13, what does the Lord do to the tares? He burns them. So you're going to see that the briars and thorns and the light, these are two classes of worshippers. The light is the chosen people, Jerusalem. The briars and the thorns are the tares, the foolish virgins. So at that point onwards, in the day of the unrighteous decrees, Jerusalem is chosen when two classes of worshippers are separated. The climax of the everlasting gospel. Right? And then read on now, Gutabo.
11:10. And in that day there shall be a root of Jesus.
In the day of the unrighteous decrees, when the light is set up,
We shall stand for an ensign of the people. To it shall the Gentiles seek, and his rest shall be glorious.
Okay, pause right there. So the ensign is lifted up for the Gentiles, and the rest of the Lord shall be glorious. What's the Lord's rest? Yeah, the Sabbath. The Sabbath is the rest of the Lord. Who are those who don't keep the Sabbath? The Gentiles. So therefore, by who's the ensign? Jerusalem, Adventism, right? The chosen ones in Adventism that are set up at the midnight cry, and they are lifted up as an ensign. Right? Jerusalem is chosen, and Jerusalem is chosen to draw in the Gentiles. Because Sister White says that the world can only be warned by seeing those with the seal of God. Right? So when you get to the midnight cry, God, basically the 144,000 is made up here. There's going to be a progressive binding, of which I don't deny, but they're made up here. And they're being lifted up as an ensign through persecution. And the Gentiles are seeing them standing firmly, manifesting their character, showing that they have a wedding garment, that they are the chosen ones. And the Gentiles shall begin to seek that rest, and it's glorious. So this is the capstone of the choosing of Jerusalem, the climax. Alright, let's read on. I know we've got little time left.
11:11. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand against the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria and from Egypt and from Pathros and from Cush and from Elam and from Shinar and from Hamath and from the islands of the sea.
And that's okay. So this is identifying Gentile world, right? These are all Gentiles.
He also goes on to say, he shall stretch forth his hand to save, to recover. The Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people. Does that not imply the second temple cleansing when he's calling the Gentiles from Assyria?
The second time. Anyone with insight on that? He's stretching his hand the second time.
Isn't it at the point in time whereby the Church of God is fully manifesting the character of Christ, that the first temple cleansing has been done? So now, as they manifest, God is giving that as a sign to some of his people who are still in Babylon, the Gentiles.
Okay.
He's now calling them. That's the second temple.
Second situation. Anyone with insight, I get the logic.
I think it just complements the whole the issue of the 25 true sort of where these Gentiles, these people were scattered to Babylon, but then the Lord is now gathering them. So maybe there's a lot there can be, but from that phraseology.
The gathering. Then I get the logic. Perhaps we can discuss it too. Right now I don't really know. Yeah, but I get the logic. Let's go to Psalm 132. I just want to close on a few verses and then give us a structure to finish off with. Psalm 132:13. Who's reading Taku?
For the Lord hath chosen Zion, he hath desired it for his habitation.
Okay, what's the Lord's habitation? Yes, but what is it?
The church.
It's the sanctuary. Let them make me a sanctuary that I might dwell amongst them. He has desired it for his habitation. So the choosing of Jerusalem is the raising up of the temple, the spiritual house, and it's the choosing of Zion. Yes?
This is my rest forever. Here will I dwell, for I have desired it. There will I make the horn of David to bud. I have ordained a lamp for my anointed.
So the choosing of Jerusalem is connected with the lamp again. Right? And the Lord will make the horn of David to bud. Where do we mark the beginning of the budding? 9/11. Right? It says what? He stayeth this rough wind in the day of the east wind. When he shooteth forth, thou would debate with it. He stayeth this rough wind in the day of the east wind. The four wheels are held by the cherubims here. Right? And the budding begins. The budding begins at 9/11. So when the budding of the trees of spring, because the latter rain causes something to bud. So when the budding is taking place, the Lord is choosing Zion, which is building up his temple. He's raising Jerusalem. Because he has ordained a lamp, and a lamp is a symbol of a church. Because the church triumphant has to burn as a lamp at the midnight cry. Right, let's go. 1 Kings 11:31, we're back. Maybe, I think it's me. And he said to Jeroboam, take thee 10 pieces, for thus saith the Lord, the God of Israel, behold, I will rend the kingdom out of the hand of Solomon, and will give thee 10 tribes, give 10 tribes to thee, but he shall have one tribe for my servant David's sake, for Jerusalem's sake, the city which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel. We see that. Jerusalem is chosen, and there's a lamp promised to it, right? No, I haven't read about the lamp. But Jerusalem is chosen. But contextually, we're going to show that in the following study, that when Jerusalem is chosen, you see a division taking place. Right? There's a separation, isn't there? Rehoboam and Jeroboam are being separated. There's a split. Two classes are being separated, and Jerusalem is being chosen. But I will take the kingdom out of his son's hand, and will give it unto thee, even 10 tribes, and unto his son will I give one tribe, that David my servant may have a light always before me in Jerusalem, the city which I have chosen to put my name there. You see that? the chosen, Jerusalem is chosen that there might be a light always there. And the Lord is chosen to put his name there. Where do we see the name of the Lord? Yes. Yes. Jerusalem is the Sabbath. Jerusalem is the place where the Lord puts his name. Therefore, who's Jerusalem? Who are those who have the name of the Lord? The 140,000 have got the name of the Father on their foreheads. So they are Jerusalem. The church triumphant is chosen when there's a separation taking place. And there's a light there, that the church triumphant burning. Right? I'll read the last two, then we'll close. Revelation verse 1. And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his father's name written in their foreheads. Jerusalem is chosen. Right? Zechariah 1:16, this is the last one. Therefore thus saith the Lord, I am returned to Jerusalem with mercies. My house shall be built in it. What's his house? The temple. The temple shall be built in Jerusalem. The church triumphant shall be raised up. Saith the Lord of hosts, a line shall be stretched forth upon Jerusalem. So when the Lord is choosing Jerusalem, what is he doing? Stretching a line. It's going to be a line stretched forth. It's being measured, which is something we'll look into tomorrow. Then says, cry yet, saying, thus saith the Lord of hosts, my cities through prosperity shall yet be spread abroad, and the Lord shall yet comfort Zion, and shall yet choose Jerusalem. Who's the comforter?
The Holy Spirit.
The Holy Spirit. And I said unto the angel that talked with me, what be these? And he answered, these are the four horns which have scattered Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem. So, in closing, when you get to a point where Jerusalem is being chosen, the Lord is comforting Zion, and he's stretching a line. He's building the temple. That's why I have these three decrees, Cyrus, Darius, and Artaxerxes. I can't get into it today, time failed. But Jerusalem is being chosen when the Lord is stretching forth a line. And to stretch a line, you're going to see that it's identifying a work of investigative judgment. Right? So the choosing of Jerusalem begins when the investigative judgment is there. And the choosing of Jerusalem is the sealing. Therefore, the sealing and the investigative judgment in the latter rain are simultaneous works. Right? And it's building up the temple. And it took 3 decrees to build Jerusalem. Therefore, at the end of the world, it's going to take 3 angels to build Jerusalem. You follow? But we'll pick it up from there tomorrow. Any closing comments and questions? Yes.
And then when Jerusalem has been fully chosen, and then this verse is fulfilled, Zechariah chapter 8, verse 23, verse 22 and 23. Yea, many people and strong nations shall come to seek the Lord of hosts in Jerusalem, and to pray before the Lord. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, in those days it shall come to pass that 10 men shall take hold out of all languages of the nations, even shall take hold of the skirt of him that is a Jew, saying, we will go with you, for we have heard that God is with you. So people will be able to see all of those things reflected amongst God's people. And when they are able to do that, evangelism will take place on its own. Well, that's at the Sunday.
Who are the 10 men? It's the 10 kings. It's Jeroboam's 10 tribes. When the kingdom is divided, Jerusalem is chosen. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you in the name of Christ. We thank you for your study on the choosing of Jerusalem. Help us to internalize it, and if there are things that need to be hashed out, I pray, Lord, that we might continue to go through them and gain a thorough understanding of them. I thank you, Lord, as we prepare for breakfast and the following lessons, that you might continue to grant us thy spirit. And if there are any people who have questions and stuff, I pray, Lord, that you might help capable be willing people to be able to attend to them, that your flock might be fed. And we thank you, merciful Savior, for these are your words, and which you have committed unto lips that needs to be touched with the call from off the altar, that need to be purified, as did Isaiah. So we thank you, Lord, and be with us in a special way. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen.